Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over some investments that I plan on buying over the next 6 months. Now, these are, and I'll make it clear, these are purely just for investment purposes. I'll still be buying like collectible items. I definitely get a booster box, an elite trainer box, and I try to time it right for each new set that comes out, even if I don't think the set's particularly investable per se. I still like to get a booster box and an elite trainer box because you never know. It could well be short printed, and sometimes things surprise you. We're not always right. Just because a set might look super investable doesn't mean it always is. But I'm going to go through, and these are in no particular order. This isn't a countdown from 10 to 1. This is just 10 things that I plan on buying purely as an investment over the next 6 months. Right? Well, let's get stuck into it. The first one, and it came about when I was really thinking about Cosmic Eclipse, because if you actually look throughout the Pokemon sets from each era, there seem to be some similarities, and they don't always match up. Like sometimes they're better. It's like, XY had Flash Fire, and Sun and Moon had Burning Shadows, and Sword and Shield had Darkness Ablaze. And now we have Obsidian Flame. So it's like this trend that, and oddly, were they the third set? They're all the third main set, I think. But anyway, the point is, they seem to follow this trend of bringing out similar sort of sets. Something like a Plasma Freeze and a Chilling Rain. Like it's, similar sort of vibe. There'll be that fire theme, then there'll be that sort of, dragon theme, and then there'll be a tundra, like snow sort of theme. So, it got me thinking with Cosmic Eclipse. One thing, and this is, like I said, no particular order, but this is, I suppose, number 10, or one of the 10, is Astral Radiance. I'm going to bring up the top 10 hits from this set, and if you look at them, I just feel there's a fair bit of potential there for Astral Radiance. So that's something, and it is one of the sets that didn't seem to cop that reprint. The two side by side it did. Lost Origin and Silver Tempest, and it seems like Crown Zenith is about to get another reprint, but Astral Radiance seems to have been left alone a little bit. And currently here in Australia, you can still pick up a booster box, and I did buy one just yesterday, and I plan on buying a few more in the next 6 months. You can still pick them up on special for about 210 Australian dollars. Now, the conversion rate at the moment, I think it's about $1.57, so $1 buys $1.57 Australian. So you're probably looking, what's that, somewhere around 135 US when I went to school. So, 210 Australian, 135 US. I don't think it's a bad buy. I think it's actually a really, really good buy. Like looking at those top 10 cards, there's some real potential there for some growth. There's some really, really nice looking cards. I know it doesn't have that massive, massive chase card, and that's what I mean by it reminds me of Cosmic Eclipse a little bit. I'm not saying it's as good a set as Cosmic Eclipse because I don't think it is. But Astral Radiance, Cosmic Eclipse, like they're in that same sort of theme that I was talking about with, Flash Fire and Darkness Ablaze and Burning Shadows and Obsidian Flames. It's that sort of theme. It doesn't mean it's going to perform as well as Cosmic Eclipse, of course, but, it's that throwback to that cosmic sort of vibe, Origin Form, Dialga, and Palkia, and we all know how good the old art from Cosmic Eclipse with Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia is. Beautiful card, goes really well. The other thing that's interesting, and I'll bring it up on the screen now, only 38,000 PSA graded cards from Astral Radiance. Now, you could argue, it doesn't have those big Charizard chase cards that everyone's sending into PSA to get graded, but, that's relatively low throughout the Sword and Shield era compared to a lot of other sets, particularly if you look at, say, something like Vivid Voltage, which has about 250,000 PSA graded cards, so 250,000 graded cards for Vivid Voltage. This is almost a tenth of the graded cards that Vivid Voltage has. So with those things in mind, while it's still cheap, before it goes out of rotation, hopefully it doesn't get a reprint because it's still a good price, and I think that's going to be one of the first ones I look to pick up before it starts its journey north, because if it doesn't get a reprint, it should start a journey north in the next 6 months. Second one. I spent a long time on the first one. I suppose this is number 9, I guess, but I really want to get some more Japanese 151 booster boxes. And I know they kept saying it's going to be printed to demand this set, but I bought a booster box just the other day here in Australia for 225 Australian dollars, which if you do the maths is probably somewhere 140, 145 US, I imagine. And already I went back to the same seller to buy another one just yesterday when I bought my Astral Radiance booster box, and it had already gone up to 279. So it went from 225 to 279 in a week. But that set needs no explanation. It is just a phenomenal set. The fact that you've got the Master Ball hollows in there, the great special illustration rares. It's obviously the original 151. I don't need to spruik that set. It's just phenomenal. It is arguably the best set we've seen in a long time. It deserves all the praise it'll get. And those booster boxes should be a one-track train north. Is it going to perform similarly to something like Eevee Heroes, which is probably one of the best performing Japanese sets in the last couple of years? Possibly. In Australia, you can't really pick up an Eevee Heroes booster box for under $700-800 probably now. So what's that in US? $400-500? So I don't know. Is it going to do something similar? Possibly. Depends on how much it gets printed. They did say, like I was saying, it'll be printed to demand, but you can't argue it's such a phenomenal set, and it's something I want to pick up for investment purposes over the next 6 months. Right, moving along. Another one. And this is a strange one because it seems to be cheaper, and I've mentioned this before, it seems to be cheaper in Australia than what it is in the US, and that's Fusion Strike booster box. Again, same thing. Looking at the top 10 hits out of this set, it's got some stellar hits. I know it's missing the trainer gallery that those later Sword and Shield sets picked up, but the box art's phenomenal. And same thing, like this goes back to the point I made of Astral Radiance, and sets like Burning Shadows, Darkness Ablaze, Obsidian Flames, etc. The Fusion Strike is that Ghost Psychic sort of set, and they always perform pretty well, even if you track all the way back to EX era of something like Holland Phantoms, which was your sort of Ghost Psychic sort of set. Even if you trace back to something like XY Phantom Forces, that Ghost Psychic set always seems to perform pretty well because Gengar and Mew are really fan favourite Pokemon. So while booster boxes are still cheap, I think you can still get them with a discount code on eBay for somewhere around 190 to 200 Australian dollars, which is, before it starts moving north, I'd like to pick up a few more Fusion Strike booster boxes. And just for reference, because most people probably from the US, that's about, what's that work out to be? Maybe 140 US, I imagine. Somewhere around that, or 130 US probably. Yeah, about 130 US dollars for a Fusion Strike booster box. But there seems to be a bit of discrepancy there. They seem to be somewhat a little bit dearer in the United States, because I think TCG Player has them about 145. Convert that to Australian dollars and it doesn't really match up. But anyway, that's definitely something I want to pick up. Now, here's an oddball. Here's a curveball. The fourth one I want to buy in the next 6 months is more Charizard UPCs. And people might think, nah, you're stupid. And we hear it all the time, that was just printed to absolute oblivion. It'll never rise. But think about it. Think about it. The sets inside it. Okay, you've got things like Brilliant Stars. You've got Astral Radiance. Some average sets in, I think you get a Vivid Voltage and a Darkness Ablaze booster, but you also get Evolving Skies in there, and you get 3 of the best looking Charizard promos that I think the game has ever seen. Not the best, but 3 of the best. They are phenomenal looking promos, and I know the market's completely flooded with them, but I just see this being a good product as a long-term hold. It's not something that's going to rapidly double or triple in price like maybe a Japanese 151 booster box will do in the next 2 years, but it's just a good hold for the long term, I think. In 10 years' time, Charizard UPC, you've got that good chunk of Sword and Shield booster pack sitting inside it. You've got 3 great promos. It's just going to be such a fun set for people, or fun box for streamers to rip in the future, I think. Can they pull an alt art out of a Sword and Shield UPC? So while it's still cheap, I think at the moment you can still pick them up for about 175 Australian dollars down here. It's probably a little bit dearer here than what it is in the US. I think most parts of the US, you can probably still pick it up for $95 to $105, which doesn't really match up in Australian dollars. But I think it's a fantastic pickup still. Moving ahead, and I harp on about this non-stop, but you can still pick up the occasional bargain for a Chilling Reign booster box. I hopped onto eBay. Last time I was on there, you couldn't buy one for under 300 Australian dollars, which is probably like 180, 190 US. But I hopped on again last night and I found one for 255 posted in Australia, which I think is still pretty good buying at that price. I'd like to try and snag up a couple more at that 250 Australian price, which is probably somewhere around that sort of 145, 150 US dollar mark. Still think it's such a phenomenal set with some extremely underrated artworks. Beautiful, beautiful set. I've already got a fair few booster boxes of it, but I love it more. I'd love more. Moving along. And the reprint might hurt this, but it also might mean some more bargains. And I'm getting Hidden Fates vibes off this set already, and that's Crown Zenith. Like, I just wish they hadn't reprinted it again, or will reprint it again, because I don't know, did it need it? Like, it's got everything going for it. The Galarian Gallery, some beautiful artwork, great cards. It's the final English set with yellow borders. Like, it's tick, 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 tick. But if it gets printed to oblivion, it's just going to stagnate like Hidden Fates did and still does. You know, it's every bit as good as Hidden Fates, but if it gets printed to oblivion like Hidden Fates did, then it's going to sort of get stuck in its tracks. So it's something, I wouldn't say I'm going to buy it over the next 6 months, but it's something definitely on my radar. If it gets super, super cheap again, like, you know, down to 75 Australian dollars, which is like, what, 40 US, I think it's worth the pickup. It depends on the size of the reprint. So that's something on the radar. It's something I'm going to keep an eye on and address as it moves along over the next 6 months. Another one for me, here's a bit of an oddball for me because I don't collect a heap of singles, but I want to get into maybe, you know, some of those cheaper waifu cards from the Sword and Shield era. And I want to bring up this one as an example from Silver Tempest, the Candace card. Good looking card. Currently going for about 20 Australian dollars or 13, what is that, about 13 US, 13.50 US. So it's feels underpriced for what it is. So I think, you know, similar cards to this, trying to find those cheap 13 US dollar, like 10 to 15 US dollar waifu sort of cards, which maybe have the potential of rising to $30 or $50 cards in the future, is a really good pickup. So that's something else that's certainly on my radar that I want to get a few of on the next 6 months. Moving along, we must be up to about number 8, the 8th product that I plan on buying. I still want to pick up a couple more because the booster boxes I feel are getting out of reach price-wise is Evolving Skies ETBs. The booster box here in Australia, you can't pick one up for under $6.50. So, you know, I'd rather buy 3 or even 4 Astral Radiance booster boxes than one Evolving Skies booster box. But the ETBs, I wouldn't mind. It's on the radar to pick up a couple more over the next 6 months. They're currently about 180 Australian dollars, which is what, maybe 110, 115 US, I imagine. You guys are so lucky. Like, you cannot find them in shelves down here in Australia anymore. And that's where the markets differ a little bit. They're just not. Like, you can go to probably, and give me a comment if you got lucky enough. You could scour every Target, every Kmart. You're not going to find an Evolving Skies ETB. Whereas I see them still popping up on in the US, like seeing it on people's Instagram feeds or TikTok feeds, finding Evolving Skies ETBs at $39.99 US or $49.99 US. I'd be buying them all if I was there. So that's something else that's on the radar. The 9th one that we're up to, another thing that I really want to buy, I feel like this set's somewhat a bit of a sleeper, and that's Paldea Evolved. I've done the whole, okay, new sets come out, I've waited a couple months for it to dip in price a little bit, then I've gone and bought a couple of ETBs and a booster box, and I'm just going to assess it and see what happens over the next 6 months, because, you know, if it takes a little bit more of a dip with a lot of people's energy thrown into, you know, the newer sets like Obsidian Flames and Scarlet and Violet 151 coming out, I think it's going to be a good pickup. And some of the cards inside there are really, really good looking cards. And there's some old school 151, like I pulled that Tauros out of it the other day, the illustration rare. Geez, that was a good looking card. You got that Tyranitar looking like Godzilla, beautiful artwork on the Magikarp, couple of nice trainers inside there. Like, it feels like there's potential in that set. So it's certainly something that's definitely on the radar. Final one, I suppose number 10, and these are just something special, I think. And they're probably somewhat heavily inflated at the moment, so I want to wait for more product to open up, but that is the Master Ball Hollows from Japanese 151. Pretty sure it's been confirmed that this isn't coming into the English set. They're just going to be the regular reverse hollows, not the Master Ball Hollows. If you've heard, you probably already know, but if you don't, it's one per booster box. So yes, you get a reverse hollow in every pack, but only one pack will have a Master Ball reverse hollow. And you've got to think about all the individual cards in the set. So the odds of getting it, like, you know, you could open 200 booster boxes and not pull every Master Ball hollow. That's you know, that's how sort of rare it is. So I feel like I want to, again, assess this, wait to see if maybe there's a dip in price over the next 6 months on these Master Ball hollows. And if there happens to be, I think it's great to pick up some of those fan favorites. Like, I'd love the Pikachu Master Ball hollow, I'd love the Mewtwo, I'd love the Gengar, even you know, things like Flareon and Jolteon, like Master Ball hollows. It's just cool. It's just so cool what they did there. I really like what they did. So that's something else that's on my radar. Well, there you go. That's the 10 things that are on my investment radar over the next 6 months. And like I said, they are for investment purposes only. Again, they're great collectibles, and I will be buying, you know, booster boxes and ETBs of each set as it goes along. But these are purely things that are on my radar that I can see making moves over the next 6 months. Question for everyone: what's on your radar over the next 6 months? Do you have a list that you sort of keep of things that you know, keep an eye on and wait to see if it maybe dips in price or find a deal on? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll catch everyone next time. Thanks for watching.